Hello and welcome to the Spirit Spa, an online sanctuary dedicated to supporting you in the early stages of recovery from depression or a nervous breakdown. I'm Karen Packwood, the Love Millionaire. I'm a best-selling author and a spiritual guide. And in today's messages that I call messages from the wilderness, I'm going to be talking to you about how to manage as a parent when you are in the early stages of depression or nervous breakdown, because it's very difficult, isn't it, when we're in such a difficult and broken place ourselves. How do we then make sure that we are actually caring for our children when we're actually finding it very difficult to just care for ourselves? And particularly in the early stages, that tends to be quite an insular time when really we're just kind of very in on ourselves, and we find it very hard to connect with what's going on in the outside world. Even though on the inside we haven't necessarily forgotten about the people that we love, it's just that we're not necessarily fully capable of being there for them in the way that we would like to. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that today, specifically in relation to my own experience of having had a nervous breakdown and suffering depression at that time, and how I coped as a parent. At the time, I was a single parent to a 2-year-old daughter. I had to move in with a relative because I was, sort of unable to look after both of us at that time. At the beginning of my breakdown, I was pretty much in bed for 6 months and pretty much comatose. So I definitely wasn't able to look after my daughter properly then, as much as I would like to have done. So what I'm going to talk about is that kind of time when I've come out of the 6-month period and how I was able to look after her then. And although she was a toddler, some of the things that I'm about to talk about are things that you could equally apply to, if you've got older children or teenagers. And I'd love to know in the comments below if you've, been going through depression or through the stages of recovery from a nervous breakdown with teenagers. It would be amazing to know how you've actually coped at that time. But I think there's quite a big overlap between how you look after yourself within the family, with toddlers and within teenagers as well. So I'm going to share a few things that helped me. I really hope that they help you. I would also love to know anything that you've done yourself, so please share that information in the comments below. I have got some notes with me, so I'm going to be looking down because I've got a few things that I want to say, and I want to make sure that I say everything. So if you see me looking down, it's because I'm actually just referring to my notes that I made before I actually created this video for you. So the very first thing that I want to do is I want to remind you to be very gentle with yourself and with those around you. It's a very harsh experience being in a depression or being in a nervous breakdown, particularly if you're somebody that can give yourself a hard time, can beat yourself up, if you have high expectations, if you're a perfectionist in any way. The slightest kind of notion that you might feel like you're not parenting to the best of your ability can kind of actually make your situation even worse. So the very first thing is to be very gentle with yourself and to give yourself permission to not be a perfect parent. I was absolutely terrified that I would completely be destroying my bonding experience with my daughter. She was only 2 years old. I was really terrified that I had destroyed my relationship with her. I'm really glad to say that that's not the case. I have a very good relationship with her. She's 15 now. And I'm fairly convinced that because of some of the things that I was able to do at the time, kind of helps to maintain that positive bonding experience between us. So I gave myself permission. Well, I didn't really give myself permission. I had no choice to not be a perfect parent because there was no way I could be a perfect parent. But nevertheless, I encourage you, if you're desperately trying to be a perfect parent, to give yourself permission to not be a perfect parent. The next thing that really helped me was having a routine. My daughter knew, she didn't know the time, obviously, but so for example, I always knew what time she needed to leave to go to nursery in the mornings. And I based that on basically on one of the television programs that was on at the time. So she knew that when that program ended, that was when we left, and that's when we went to nursery. And I made a point of making sure that she still went to nursery so that she had some regular social contact with people outside the home. But it meant that I also had that time while she was at nursery to actually rest and collapse, basically. I used to do what I could for her, and she was where all my energy went. And then as soon as she was at nursery, that's when I would be able to collapse and just kind of let the depression and let the natural process of recovery from depression and breakdown kind of take its course. And often that was just initially, it was just allowing myself to sleep and rest. But it was very much about keeping the routine going and keeping time going. And I'm not talking about some kind of like, kind of anal and rigid adherence to it. It was very much a supportive thing. We knew what our routine was. We knew when that program finished, that was when we left. She in the evenings, she knew what program finished for it to be her bedtime. And we had that routine. We knew which tea, watching a little bit of telly. She knew when her shower time was. She knew all her routine, and that just made it so much more helpful for me. Just a little bit of a word about television, because prior to my breakdown, I had been a parent who was adamant that my daughter wasn't going to watch telly. We were just going to spend our whole life doing, amazingly creative things with one another. Well, as soon as I had my breakdown, of course, that went out the window, and I used television as a way of entertaining my daughter so that I could rest, but I used it as a way of keeping some bonding experiences going as well. Because I would lie on the sofa. I didn't have much energy, but I would lie on the sofa. She would sit on the sofa with me, and then we could watch programs and chat about the programs. And we had that physical contact. We were cuddling. We were having physical contact, and that was very important. I didn't really have the energy to talk very much. I certainly didn't have the energy to get up and do lots of things, but I was able to just put my arm around her and keep some kind of physical, loving contact going. And I really encourage you to do that as much as possible. I know that sometimes we want to really withdraw, but if you can, just give your children a regular hug. These are the other things that I would encourage you to do. I would encourage you to be extremely honest with them. To tell them what's going on. Maybe if you can, tell them how you're feeling. Not to overwhelm them, not to overburden them, to just be very clear so they do know what's going on. But of course, reassure them that you are on the way to recovery. You're finding your way out of it. Remind them that you love them. Tell them regularly that you love them. When you speak to them, give them eye contact and use their names. When we are in depression or recovery, we shut down, we withdraw, we go inside, and we forget, we disconnect from the outside world. But just remember, try as much as you can with your children to look them in the eye, to use their name. Let them know that you remember who they are. Let them know that you love them. I used to feel guilty that I wasn't running around playing ball with my daughter. I didn't have the energy. But looking back, I actually think, just being able to use her name, look her in the eye, tell her I love her, give her some physical contact. I think that was really important, and probably almost more important than running around playing ball games with her that I didn't have the energy for. So I really believe that that eye contact and that name, and even if you even if it's not genuine, even if you're not really feeling it, if you're feeling disconnected from it, to just try and act it, if you like, because it will come back to being natural. It will come back to being natural, but do just kind of eye to eye contact. You will be fed by that connection. Something will nourish you in the experience, and so that will help your recovery as well. Very gently, very slowly, but it will have a positive impact on your recovery as well. So a little bit of eye contact, use their names, be honest with them, make sure there's a little bit of loving physical contact each and every day. And a little bit of time. I know it's hard when you're completely inside yourself, but maybe a little bit of time just watching the TV or something with them, but you don't have to do very much, but just be with them can be very, very helpful. I'm just going to look at my notes. Oh, the other thing that I did was I played music as well. I didn't have the energy to do much physically with my daughter, but I made a point of putting music on because I knew that that had a happy vibration going on. There was a happy energy with the music. So I wasn't able to sing and dance as much as I would have done with a toddler. Like with nursery rhymes and so on. But we did have the music on, and I do believe that that actually did create a nice, happy energy for her. And certainly, I think with teenagers, so teenagers love music, don't they? So, and you might not like their music, but perhaps just maybe making sure that there's some nice, happy music going on in the house can just help to raise the vibrations a little bit and help everybody feel a bit happier. So music was quite a big thing that I used a lot, actually. What else? Yeah, just remember, just do what you can. It's basic survival stuff here. Making sure that they're fed and watered, making sure that they're safe, making sure that they're going to school or going to nursery. Making sure that they're still having contact with friends. I found that very difficult at times because I didn't want to go out and socialise with other mums. And I didn't feel myself. I just felt very false when I was in those kind of situations, and I didn't want to actually admit what was going on for myself. I kind of wanted to act like I was some kind of normal, sane parent when I didn't feel like it at all. But I did know that it was very important for my daughter to have social connections still, so I did make an effort to do that. So pretty much all of my energy went into making sure that things were as normal for my daughter as possible. And then when she was either in bed or at nursery, I just kind of collapsed back into my dark world. Now, of course, I am talking a little bit further on than the initial breakdown stage. Right at the very beginning, I wasn't able to do any of that, and you probably won't be able to if you're right at the very beginning. But this is when you need to accept help and support from other people and have the courage to ask for support as well. And that doesn't mean you're a failure. It doesn't mean you're never going to be a functioning parent again, because you will be a functioning parent again. Of course, you're going to come back to that place, but you've got to start where you're at. Be honest about where you're at, about what you need, what your child needs, and start where you're at, and then very gently and very gradually you can bring yourself forward into a sort of a happier and more functioning place. So I'm going to leave that there. Please just remember to be very gentle with yourself and honest about where you're at and what you need and what your children need, and don't be afraid to ask for help and support. If you have any specific questions, please leave them in the comments below. If you have any experiences that you would like to share, please leave them in the comments below. Please know that you can reach out to me at karenpackwood@gmail.com. You can read my blog, www.thelovemillionaire.com. And please, just feel free to ask me any questions or to reach out to me in any way that feels fit for you. But I'm going to send you lots of love. Please know that you are on your way to recovery. You are going to be able to do this. You will find your own natural ways forwards. And don't have any sense of failure. Don't have any sense of shame. Work your way through those so that you can come back to a place of feeling happy, well, confident, and joyful in your life again, because it is possible. So I'm sending you lots of love. Take care and have a very lovely and loving day with yourself and with your children.